Do you wake up at night, often around 3 a.m., with your brain suddenly fully alert? Your body feels exhausted, but your mind feels switched on and restless. Many people immediately think this means they have insomnia, but sleep science explains this is often not insomnia at all. There is a hidden reason why the brain stops letting you stay asleep, and it has nothing to do with weakness, discipline, or age. It starts with how the brain interprets safety during the night. People with light sleep, frequent awakenings, or non-restorative sleep often feel confused. They wonder why they can fall asleep yet wake up during the night. Some blame stress, others blame their habits or their own mind. Over time, this creates frustration and quiet fear around bedtime. But studies show this pattern is extremely common across all ages. It reflects a biological response inside the brain, not a personal failure. Your brain may simply be doing what it thinks is necessary to protect you. This doesn't happen randomly, and it doesn't happen without a reason. The brain follows internal signals tied to the nervous system and hormones. When those signals shift, sleep can become fragmented without warning. Melatonin and cortisol may fall out of their natural nighttime rhythm. The brain then moves into a subtle state of alert while you're asleep. This is why waking up at night feels sudden and confusing, and understanding what triggers this response is the key to what comes next. I'm Dr. Sarah, a sleep medicine specialist with a background in psychiatry. For many years, I've listened to people describe the same confusing nights. They fall asleep without much trouble, feeling hopeful the night will be different. But then they wake up in the middle of the night, often suddenly. Their body feels tired, yet their brain feels alert and active. This experience can feel isolating, as if no one else truly understands it. But it is far more common than most people realize. I see this pattern in people of all ages and backgrounds. Young adults, middle-aged individuals, and older adults report the same struggle. They often say, "I can fall asleep, but I can't stay asleep." The problem is not bedtime, but what happens during the night. This repeated awakening can quietly wear down energy and confidence. Over time, it creates frustration and anxiety around sleep itself. Yet the cause is rarely what people assume at first. Many believe these awakenings are caused only by stress or lifestyle. Others think it's just part of getting older or having a busy mind. But experts in sleep health explain that this pattern has a neurological explanation. It involves how the brain and nervous system behave at night. The brain does not simply shut off when you fall asleep. It continues monitoring internal signals of balance and safety. When those signals shift, the brain may respond without your permission. Sleep science shows that the brain plays an active role throughout the night. Hormones like melatonin and cortisol guide this process quietly in the background. When they follow a stable rhythm, sleep remains deep and uninterrupted. When that rhythm becomes unstable, awakenings can occur. This is not a character flaw or lack of willpower. It is the brain responding to biological signals it believes are important. Understanding this changes how we view nighttime awakenings completely. Many people feel relief when they learn this isn't random or imagined. There is comfort in knowing the science already understands this pattern, even if it is rarely explained clearly or calmly. This knowledge alone can reduce fear around waking up at night. It replaces self-blame with understanding and curiosity. Because once you know the brain is involved, the problem becomes clearer, and clarity is the first step toward restoring restful sleep. The most important shift is realizing nothing is wrong with you. Your brain is responding to internal signals, not sabotaging your rest. This response follows predictable rules of sleep biology. When those rules are understood, the situation feels far less threatening. The next step is learning what actually triggers this response at night, because there is a specific reason the brain becomes alert while you sleep, and that reason explains what's really happening during those 3 a.m. awakenings. For a long time, many people believe this problem means something is wrong with them. They think they lack discipline, willpower, or the ability to relax properly. Some push themselves harder, trying new routines or forcing sleep to happen. Others feel ashamed for waking up at night again and again. But this belief creates more pressure, not better sleep. Sleep science invites us to look at this experience differently, and that shift in perspective changes everything. The real reason isn't that you can't fall asleep. Most people who wake up at night fall asleep just fine. The real reason is that your brain can't stay asleep. Something inside the brain interrupts the sleep process after it begins. This interruption often happens quietly and without conscious control. It's not a decision you make, and it's not something you choose. It's a response that happens beneath awareness. At night, the brain does not simply turn off and rest. It continues monitoring internal signals of safety, balance, and internal stability. When those signals shift, the brain may move into alert mode. Even when there is no real danger present, the body may be safe, but the brain senses instability, so it responds the only way it knows. This is not your fault. It's a brain response, not a personal failure. Your brain is not trying to sabotage your rest. It is responding to patterns it believes require attention. These patterns are influenced by hormones like melatonin and cortisol. When their nighttime rhythm becomes unstable, alert signals can rise. The brain interprets this as a reason to wake you up, even though your body desperately wants to stay asleep. Understanding this removes a heavy emotional burden. It replaces self-blame with biological explanation. You are not broken, lazy, or weak. Your brain is simply following a protective program. The important question becomes why this program activates at night, because once that trigger is identified, the response can change, and that leads directly into what happens inside the brain around 3 a.m. In a healthy night of sleep, the brain follows a predictable rhythm. As darkness settles in, melatonin rises and remains steady. This hormone signals that it is safe to stay asleep. At the same time, cortisol stays low and quiet in the background. The nervous system shifts into a calm, restorative state. Breathing slows, muscles relax, and the brain reduces alert activity. This balance allows sleep to remain deep and uninterrupted. In this stable state, the brain feels no reason to intervene. It trusts the internal signals it receives from the body. The circadian rhythm acts like a timing system for rest and repair. As long as these signals stay aligned, sleep flows naturally. You may move between sleep stages without waking up. The brain remains in maintenance mode, not surveillance mode, and the night passes without disruption. Problems begin when this internal balance becomes unstable. Melatonin may rise, but it fails to stay consistent through the night. Cortisol, which should remain low, can increase too early. This hormonal shift sends mixed signals to the brain. The nervous system becomes slightly more active without you realizing it, and the brain starts paying closer attention. When these changes happen, the brain doesn't see them as harmless. It interprets instability as a possible threat to safety. Even without danger, the brain is designed to respond. Its role is to protect, not to analyze context, so it increases alertness as a precaution. This is when nighttime awakenings often occur, not because of fear, but because of misread signals. At this point, the brain activates a protective response. It gently pulls you out of deeper sleep. Your eyes may open, and your thoughts may start moving. Your body feels tired, but your mind feels switched on. This reaction follows a clear biological pattern. It is known as the 3 a.m. brain survival response, a built-in alarm meant to keep you safe. This response explains why awakenings feel sudden and confusing. It also explains why forcing sleep rarely works. The brain must feel stable before it allows rest to continue. Without that sense of balance, it stays alert. Understanding this response changes how we approach sleep problems, because the next step is not suppression but support, and that begins with seeing how the brain can relearn nighttime safety. Imagine your brain as a nighttime security system. Its job is not to help you sleep, but to keep you safe. When everything feels stable, the system stays quiet. Lights remain off, sensors stay silent, and monitoring stays minimal. The brain trusts that the environment and the body are secure, so it allows sleep to continue without interruption. This is how deep restorative sleep is meant to feel. When the brain senses balance, it doesn't interfere. Melatonin remains steady, signaling that night is still in progress. Cortisol stays low, reinforcing calm and rest. The nervous system remains relaxed and cooperative. The circadian rhythm continues guiding the night smoothly. The brain stays in background mode, not control mode. Sleep unfolds naturally without conscious effort. But when internal signals shift, the system reacts differently. A drop in melatonin or a rise in cortisol triggers attention. The brain doesn't analyze whether the threat is real. It responds automatically to any sign of imbalance. This is how it has protected humans for thousands of years. The system becomes more sensitive during the quiet of night, and even small changes can feel important to the brain. When this happens, the security system turns itself on. It doesn't panic, but it increases vigilance. Lights come on, sensors activate, and monitoring intensifies. This often happens around 3 a.m. when sleep is lighter. The brain moves out of rest mode and into alert mode, not because of danger, but because of uncertainty. This is the brain doing what it was designed to do. The result is a sudden awakening during the night. You wake up at night without a clear reason. Your body still feels heavy, tired, and in need of rest, but your mind feels awake, alert, and engaged. Thoughts may start flowing without invitation. Trying to force sleep often makes this worse because the brain doesn't feel ready to stand down yet. This explains why night awakenings feel so frustrating. You want rest, but your brain is busy watching. The system hasn't made a mistake. It's responding to signals tied to hormones, rhythm, and nervous system balance. Once those signals are understood, they can be influenced. And that raises an important question. What keeps this security system switched on at night? When sleep becomes lighter, the body misses deeper restorative stages. You may sleep for many hours, yet still feel unrefreshed. This superficial sleep prevents the brain from fully recovering overnight. The nervous system never fully powers down. As a result, rest feels incomplete and fragile. You wake up with the sense that something is missing, even if the clock says you slept enough. This leads to a quiet but persistent mental fatigue. Mornings begin with heaviness rather than clarity. Simple tasks may require more effort than they should. Focus feels harder to maintain throughout the day. Energy rises and falls unpredictably. The brain feels like it never fully reset, and that can affect mood without obvious cause. Over time, this pattern creates subtle frustration. You might start questioning your ability to rest properly. Confidence in your sleep slowly decreases. You might notice more mental noise during the day. Small challenges feel more draining than before. Yet it's difficult to connect this to nighttime awakenings because the effect builds gradually. As night approaches, a new pattern can appear. You begin thinking about sleep before it even starts. Thoughts like, "Will I wake up again?" quietly surface. This is not fear, but anticipation. The brain remembers previous awakenings. It prepares itself to monitor the night, even before you fall asleep. This anticipation can subtly activate the nervous system. Cortisol may rise slightly earlier than it should. Melatonin may struggle to remain stable. The brain becomes more sensitive to internal signals. Sleep may still come, but it feels lighter. The cycle quietly reinforces itself, not through panic, but through learned expectation. None of this means something is wrong with you. It reflects how the brain adapts to repeated patterns. The system is trying to stay prepared. Recognition is the first step, not alarm, because this pattern is understandable and common, and once recognized, it can be interrupted. The key is knowing where to apply support next. The most important thing to understand is this pattern is reversible. Sleep science shows the brain is not fixed or stuck. The brain is adaptable, especially when it comes to sleep. It constantly updates its responses based on new signals. What it learns, it can also relearn. This applies even after long periods of fragmented sleep. Change is possible without force or struggle. Studies show the brain can relearn signals of safety at night. When internal balance is restored, alert responses decrease. The nervous system becomes less reactive during sleep. Melatonin can return to a more stable nighttime rhythm. Cortisol can once again remain low until morning. These shifts allow the brain to trust the night again, and trust is essential for deeper sleep. The circadian rhythm is designed to be flexible. It adjusts based on consistent supportive cues. When those cues are aligned, sleep depth improves naturally. The brain spends more time in restorative stages. Awakenings become shorter or less frequent. Sometimes they stop happening altogether, not because sleep is forced, but because safety is restored. This process does not require perfection or control. It works through gentle, repeated signals. The brain responds best to consistency, not pressure. Small changes can produce noticeable differences, especially when they support the nervous system. Over time, the brain learns there's no need to monitor, so it stays quiet longer through the night. Nothing is broken. Your brain is just overprotecting you at night. This perspective brings immediate relief to many people. It replaces fear with understanding. Your brain is not failing, it is trying to help. It simply learned a pattern that no longer serves you, and learned patterns can be updated. This is how biological systems evolve. Once this sense of safety returns, sleep begins to change. Not suddenly, but steadily. The night feels less fragile and more predictable. The brain becomes less alert and more cooperative. This opens the door to a different approach to sleep, one that focuses on support rather than suppression. And that leads directly to how the solution actually works. At this point, it's important to be very clear. This is not a trick or a quick fix. It's not a sedative that shuts the brain down. And it's not about forcing sleep to happen. Forcing sleep often creates more resistance. The brain doesn't respond well to pressure. It responds to signals of safety and balance. The real solution works by supporting the brain. Instead of pushing it into rest, it helps it feel secure. When the brain senses stability, it naturally allows sleep. This approach respects how sleep biology actually works. It aligns with the nervous system rather than fighting it, and that makes the change feel calmer and more sustainable because the brain remains in control, not overwritten. A proper nighttime protocol focuses on internal signals, signals that guide hormones and nervous system activity. One of the main goals is stabilizing melatonin at night. When melatonin remains steady, the brain feels reassured. Another goal is reducing early cortisol release. Cortisol rising too soon signals alertness. Keeping it low supports deeper sleep. This process also targets nervous system calm. When the nervous system relaxes, alert responses decrease. Heart rate slows, breathing becomes deeper. The brain shifts away from monitoring mode. It no longer feels the need to check for threats. This is essential for uninterrupted sleep. Without calm, the brain stays watchful. As these signals improve, something important happens. The brain begins to stand down at night. It no longer activates its emergency response. The 3 a.m. brain survival response becomes less active. Awakenings become shorter or less intense. In many cases, they stop occurring, not because they're suppressed, but because they're unnecessary. This is why the solution focuses on conditions, not control. You're not telling the brain what to do. You're creating the environment it needs to relax. When those conditions are present, sleep follows. This approach works with the body's design, and once understood, it changes how sleep support is chosen, which leads naturally to what provides that support at night. This is where supportive tools can play an important role, not as a treatment and not as a replacement for medical care, but as a way to support the brain's natural sleep process. Some solutions are designed to work with sleep biology. They focus on calm, balance, and nervous system support. These are doctor-approved and grounded in sleep science, and they are meant to assist, not override, the brain. This type of support is science-based and carefully formulated. It does not act like a sedative or sleep medication. It doesn't force the body into unconsciousness. Instead, it works alongside natural rhythms. The goal is to help the brain feel more stable at night, so it no longer needs to stay alert. That distinction is critical for long-term sleep health. Another important aspect is safety. This support is natural and non-habit forming. It does not create dependency or withdrawal. It can be used as part of a nightly routine. Its role is gentle and complementary, supporting melatonin stability and nervous system calm without interfering with normal brain function. It's important to be clear about expectations. This is not a cure and not a medical treatment. It does not diagnose or replace professional care. It simply supports healthy sleep processes, especially those related to nighttime alert responses. This makes it suitable for many people seeking natural support without disrupting their existing health plans. For those who want to explore this type of support, it's available in the first pinned comment below this video. That's where more information is provided, including how it fits into a simple nighttime routine and how it aligns with sleep science principles. There is no pressure or obligation, just an option for those who are curious. This simply gives the brain what it needs to feel safe enough to sleep. It doesn't command the brain to shut down. It reassures it through supportive signals the brain already understands. When those signals are present, alert responses ease, and the night becomes less fragile. Which brings us to how this support fits into daily life. You're not fighting your body, you're working with your brain. This shift alone changes how sleep feels at night. Instead of resisting awakenings, you understand their purpose. The brain isn't the enemy in this process. It's a protective system responding to signals. And when those signals change, its behavior changes too. Supporting sleep means cooperating with natural biology. It means respecting how the nervous system operates at night. When the brain feels supported, it doesn't need to stay alert. Melatonin can remain steady for longer periods. Cortisol can wait until morning to rise. The circadian rhythm can guide the night smoothly again, and sleep begins to feel less fragile. This approach does not demand perfection. It doesn't demand forcing yourself to relax. It works through gentle consistency. The brain responds best to repeated signals of safety, not commands, pressure, or urgency. This is why calm routines matter. They give the brain time to adjust. Try supporting your sleep for a few nights, not to test yourself, but to observe. Notice if awakenings feel shorter or less intense. See if falling back asleep feels easier. Pay attention to how mornings begin to feel.
More clarity, more steadiness, less mental fog. Small changes often appear before big ones. Many people notice subtle improvements first, a deeper stretch of sleep here and there, less anxiety as bedtime approaches, a quieter mind during the night. These are early signs the brain is responding. They indicate growing nighttime stability, and they tend to build with consistency. This is not about chasing perfect sleep. It's about restoring trust between you and your brain. When trust returns, the brain stands down naturally. Sleep becomes something that happens, not something you manage. That's when rest begins to feel reliable again, and understanding what supports that trust matters most, which opens the door to the next step in protecting your sleep long term.